Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be completing a part 2 video on do I regret purchasing the Subaru WRX CVT. Before we get started, if you want to see more WRX content, please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the little notification bell so you actually get notifications of my videos. Let's get right into it. So the first video that I put out will be linked above right here in case you haven't seen the first one. And basically what I'm addressing in this little mini series is whether or not the CVT WRX is something that somebody can own for the long term, and from somebody that enjoys both manual and an automatic, and their choice in driving is very situational. So obviously I'm in a WRX CVT. I've owned one for a little while now. The first video that I had linked up above here, that's the first video of this part, I'd had the car for about 2,000-3,000 miles. It was my first impressions of the car. How did I feel about it? Did I regret it? All those types of things. I've now had the car for almost 10,000 miles. I've had it for about 6 months. We're coming up to 6 months in a couple days. And I think it would be a perfect time to readdress whether or not I regret buying the Subaru WRX CVT and whether or not I feel this car is worth the money. To do a little bit of a recap, in that first video, my conclusion was no, I do not regret buying the Subaru WRX CVT. Now, a lot of that reasoning was because of my driving situations and the situation I was in my life. I was finishing up school, I was working full-time, I was super busy, I was doing a lot of driving. My commute to work was like 50 miles each way, not a ton of traffic, but occasionally I would hit rush hour on that commute. And for me at the time, it made sense both because of that and also because I had people in my household that needed to be able to drive my car. It just wasn't a time in my life where I needed to be teaching people how to drive a manual. I needed people that didn't know how to drive a manual riding the clutch on a WRX, and it would have been a pain in the butt to drive that thing to and from work every day. So this update is also situational. My situation has changed. I'm now done with school and I'm working full time. And believe it or not, I am driving even more to get to and from work. I'm doing about 40 miles each way in complete stop and go traffic in Boston. So I drive from the Quincy area all the way to West Concord, Massachusetts. And for those of you guys out here, you'll know exactly what that means. And hopefully you'll sympathize with how horrible that commute it is. But it is literally, I would be faster walking most of the time. This commute generally takes me an hour and 45 minutes each way. It can take up to 2.5 hours depending on what's going on. So it is a horrendous commute, and I appreciate the heck out of this transmission. So I think there's two really important things here of how I feel about this transmission and if I regret it or not. First off, gonna be clear, I do not regret this purchase one bit. I think the WRX CVT is one of the best things that Subaru has been able to do that is done ever, because driving a manual WRX in my situation just isn't sustainable. I know for a fact that I would lose my mind driving that much in this type of situation, driving a manual. Now I have to say, there are things now that I feel that I probably didn't feel beforehand, and I think I kind of touched on them originally. Was, there's something in the back of my head that really wants to make more power. These cars are, some of these cars are designed to make some serious power with a little bit of money invested. And to be honest, this car just isn't that. The CVT just isn't reliable. It isn't for the long term to tune the car. And I have to say, after driving this car and really enjoying this car, it could use some more power. I think it would be very fun if it had some more power. And I think in a short period of time, I will be buying another WRX to have two of them, one being a manual. So I'm at an interesting point here. I don't regret purchasing it. I think it's the best purchase I've ever made. It's the car that I've been the most happy with out of all the cars I've owned in my life, and I've owned a decent amount of cars. And yet I'm stuck in this conundrum of wanting more power, and this conundrum of I'm probably going to buy another one because I want to build it. And it's a very weird place. For most people, that's kind of cut and dry. Sell your CVT, buy a manual, and go for it. I love my CVT so much that it's not worth doing that. It's worth saving up the money, financially figuring out how to get a manual on my driveway, and going for that. Now, that might take a little bit of time and be a little bit tough. I think for the future of this channel, I might actually be selling this specific car and buying a newer WRX CVT that is strictly to support some friends of mine who are running a business that need a test vehicle to test the new body structure of the 18. So that may be strictly to aid them. Who knows if that's going to happen. But I do think a manual WRX is soon to come to this channel. There is a strong possibility I may buy a salvage wrecked one and do a complete build up. There's a really cool channel. If you haven't seen them, it's Goon Squad. Definitely go check them out. They did a build on a WRX. I thought it was really cool. They beat me to it. They were able to find one before me. Things that I think in their area it's a bit cheaper to do some of the things that they can do to the car than around in Boston. Regardless, that's a strong possibility, and I'm sure a lot of you would be interested in seeing that. So, to recap, do not regret buying this one bit. If you're on the fence, drive one of these things, assess your driving situation, assess what you'll be doing on a daily basis. If you don't think you're going to be pushing your WRX every day, if you think there are going to be times that you're going to be in traffic, that you want to be able to hold a cup of coffee, hold something to drink while you're driving, things like that, where you just want to focus on getting to and from a place, but you still want the ability to have a WRX and push it like a WRX and have something that's super fun, I think the CVT is probably for you. With that, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you sticking through the video. For those of you who did, look out for lots of content coming up in the future. I've got a lot of stuff happening to this car. I've got a lot of stuff that's happened to the car that I just haven't released the videos yet. They'll be coming out shortly. I want to release most of the mods kind of like in tandem with each other. I want them to be one after another so you guys can follow the build. Just like that, I'm going to continue my trip to work. Hope all you guys that are out there working on this Monday have a good 4th of July. Have a great day, guys.